Welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at the classic economic principle of supply and demand. To start, I'm going to input two price points. It could be the prices for our solar recharger. We'll start at 20 and then we'll go up to 35. I also have two levels of units. First, for the supply side, 30 and 48. And on the demand side, I will use 50 and 23. So I'm going to right justify the titles. And that means that at a price point of 20, the market will supply 30 or 30,000 or even 30 million units. And the consumer will demand 50 or 50,000 or 50 million. When the price goes up to 35, a lot more people will want to supply it. But when the price is that high, less people will want to demand the product. I'm going to increase my zoom a little bit to see things better. So the first step is to display these in a graph, and then we'll use our trend line function to find the equations for these two lines. To do that, I'm going to highlight the two rows. Because I only have two rows of data points, I'm going to add a couple extra rows. No rhyme or reason, that's just the way that Excel works best. So then I go over to make a very simple scatter plot. The next step is to add a trend line for the supply. Click and then right click on the data points in blue, add a linear equation, and of course we'll want to see that equation, so we'll display it on the chart. And in fact, if I do this right, you can move that equation so you can see it better. I'll repeat the process, which is good practice, for the demand equation or function. Add another trend line, linear, and display the equation on the chart. Sometimes they don't move as well as you would like. Try that one more time. There we go. So now I've got a function or equation for quantity supplied and quantity demanded. What can I do with that? And what might I want to do with it? First, I'll just change the chart title just for illustration, supply and demand. One of the key questions here is, what is that point of equilibrium? Economists have long looked for that point of equilibrium where at a certain price, the supply demanded will equal the amount supplied. And that cross point looks like it's in the $26 to $27 range with a quantity of 38 or 39. Well, we can do that pretty easily now that we have our equations. Let's set up a range of prices starting with 20, incrementing by $1 each. And we will drag copy that down. If you've never done drag copying, you can just simply type the numbers in. But if you highlight the first two cells and then touch the lower right corner to extend the range, you'll see that black plus sign pop up. Once you find that, you can click and start dragging downward. So now we've got the price range from $20 to $35. Then we're going to determine all levels of price from 25 from 20 to 35, the amount supplied, based on the equation here, 1.2x plus 6. To do that, you simply say equals 1.2 star, and I'm going to left arrow over to A9 plus 6. And that should be in units. So I'm going to reformat that cell by right-clicking Format Cells to a very general number. I can do the same thing and drag that down for all different levels of prices. Now, those are in units, so I may also round that by reformatting the cells to have a number with no decimal places. Now, I haven't done an exact rounding. I've just done an estimation rounding. Again, these could be in thousands or millions, and the trailing decimals would be important. But the focus is not on the exact numbers, but more on the process and methodology of creating a table like this. And do the same thing for demand, where demand is equal to, and in this case, I'm going to start with the x-intercept, y-intercept 86, subtract out 1.8, the slope, and multiply it by the price level. Again, it shows it in dollars. I can do another thing here. Since I worked so hard to get the format for the supply, I'll click over to B9, click on Format Painter, and then click on C9, and it will now format my cell for me. Not all versions of Excel may have Format Painter, so you could go back and right-click and format as well. And then when you have that, you can drag that down, creating the rest of the table for demand. Now, there's one other part here that I want to look at is where's that level of equilibrium where supply is equal to demand, and what is that price point? So in column D, I'm going to label this as surplus, or in parentheses, shortage. Once we calculate this, I'll explain what it means. And I always like to have those titles right justified. So here, simply, we're going to create a simple formula that takes the supply value in B9 and subtracts the demand value in C9. That results in a shortage of 20 units. And I'm going to copy that all the way down to 35. So here we see that up until about $27, we have a shortage situation. That is, the numbers are all negative, demand is greater than supply, and there's not enough units to meet the demand. After $27 or so, the situation changes to a surplus where the amount supplied is greater than the amount demanded. So, what do we do next? We can eyeball that, or we can utilize another tool. I'm going to take the view down a little bit so I can see it a little bit better, where I'm going to take one row of the data of that table and copy it a couple rows below and then paste it in. So remember, my goal is to find that price point of equilibrium. Well, we can play a game. I know it's around $27, and I can just try different values. Let's probably a little bit less. How about $26.50? That's pretty close. Hey, maybe I'll add a decimal here to help me see how close I am. Now we're in a little bit of shortage. What about $26.75? What about $26.65? You can see we get closer and closer. My guess it's around 26.67. There you go. Now, that's one way to do it. The next way to do it is a little bit more complicated, but you see, it didn't take us very long to find that key value of $26.67 to find the point of equilibrium. So if you don't have this tool, or you don't think you're capable of running it, it's okay. I won't test you on it. I'm going to set this back to 35, not a point of equilibrium. And then I'm going to click on the cell D26. And what I'm going to do is use a tool in Excel called Solver. Data at the top, Solver on the right. This is called an add-in. You may not have this add-in. You'll have to add it. And if you look at some of my supplemental videos, you can see that. So click on Data Solver. I want to set the cell of D26 to the value of 0. So instead of max or min, which we can also use and we'll look at later, we'll set it to a value of 0 by changing the cell A26. We're not going to do anything else other than click Solve. And notice that it found us very quickly the value of 2667. So there was a little bit of an extra if you had the capability to do it. And you can see how quickly you can develop these models and find answers to key questions in business without having to be a calculus engineer or rocket scientist. Thank you.